A customer asked for gas, but we don't sell any. The store always sounded louder at night. Not louder in volume, louder in presence. The refrigerators hummed with a low, animal patience. The fluorescent lights above the aisles buzzed and flickered like they were thinking about going out, reconsidering, then staying on out of spite. Somewhere behind the counter, the ice machine groaned and clicked, a tired machine dreaming of cold. I stood alone beneath it all, counting the minutes between customers, between breaths, between the moments when the glass windows stopped feeling like protection and started feeling like mirrors. It was just after 2:30 a.m., the dead hour, the time when the road outside went quiet enough that I could hear my own movements reflected back at me in the windows. Every step doubled, every shift of weight delayed by a fraction of a second. I was restocking cigarette cartons behind the counter when the bell above the door rang. The sound cut cleanly through the hum. I looked up, already rehearsing the neutral nod I gave everyone. The one that said "I see you" without inviting conversation. The customer stood just inside the doorway, silhouetted against the sodium orange glow of the parking lot. The glass warped his outline, stretched his shoulders too wide, bent his head slightly forward, like he was leaning into a strong wind that didn't exist inside the store. He didn't move toward the aisles. He just stood there, breathing. After a moment, he said, "Hey, I need some gas." I blinked. Once, then again. "We don't sell gas," I said automatically. My voice sounded thin, like it had to travel farther than it should to reach him. The man frowned. Not confused, but disappointed, as if I'd corrected him on a detail that mattered more than I understood. He stepped closer to the counter. As he moved, the smell reached me. Old oil metal, something sharp and stale beneath it, like a garage that hadn't been opened in years. "Yeah, you do," he said. "I got it here last time." I shook my head. "We've never had pumps. It's just a store." He glanced past me toward the back wall. His eyes lingered on the employee-only door, the one that led to the storage room and the breaker box and nothing else. The lights flickered harder while he looked at it, stuttering like a skipped heartbeat. "That's not how it used to be," he said. I forced a small laugh. "I've worked here 3 years. It's always been like this." He smiled then, but it didn't reach his eyes. 3 years, he repeated softly. "That explains it." The refrigerators hummed louder. Or maybe I was just listening harder. "I'm telling you," he went on. "There were pumps out back. 2 of them. Old style. Mechanical numbers. You had to come inside to pay because the card readers never worked right." He tapped the counter with one finger. The sound echoed strangely, like it came from beneath the floor instead of the laminate. "You had a bell, too, for when someone needed help after midnight." "There's always been a bell," I said, nodding toward the door. "No," he said. "I mean outside." A cold sensation crept up my spine, the kind you get when someone describes a room you're standing in, but wrong, just wrong enough to make you doubt your footing. "There's nothing out back but a loading area," I said. "Dumpster. Crates. That's it." He leaned forward, close enough now that I could see the dark crescents beneath his eyes, the way his pupils reflected the lights in sharp pinpoints. "Then why do I smell gasoline every time I pull in here?" I opened my mouth, then closed it. For the first time since he'd walked in, I noticed it myself. A faint, sour tang under the usual store smells of plastic and sugar and disinfectant. It had been there all along. I just never named it. "That's impossible," I said. "Is it?" His voice sharpened. "Because I remember standing right where you are years ago. Not you. Someone else. Different face. Same tired look." I asked him to fill it halfway because money was tight, and he said it didn't matter anymore. Said it all burned the same in the end. My reflection in the glass behind the counter looked wrong. Too pale, stretched at the edges. For a moment, it seemed like there was another shape standing behind me, just out of focus, wearing the same uniform. "I think you should leave," I said. The man's expression shifted, agitation bleeding through the calm. "Don't do that. Don't pretend this place doesn't remember." His hand trembled as he pressed it flat against the counter. "People came here when the road was longer, when the nights took more out of you. This was the last stop before the dark stretch. You don't think that disappears just because you painted over it? I don't know what you're talking about, I said, though a pressure had begun to build behind my eyes, as if something inside my skull was trying to surface. Outside, faintly, I heard an engine idle. There were no cars in the lot. The man straightened. "I'm not asking for fuel," he said. "Not for a car." My stomach dropped. He looked at me with something like pity. "I ran out back there," he said, nodding toward the black road beyond the windows. "I made it this far. Same as always. I just need enough to keep going." The lights flickered hard, plunging the store into a brief, pulsing dimness. In that moment, the walls felt thinner, the aisles longer. For a split second, I saw it as he did. The store older, smaller, the floor stained dark near the back, a hose coiled like a sleeping thing by a door that no longer existed. "What happens if I say no?" I asked. He hesitated. "Then I stay," he said, "like the others." Something moved in the reflection again. Not behind me, within the glass. Shapes, layered, waiting. My hands were shaking when I reached beneath the counter and opened the small metal drawer no one ever used. Inside was a red plastic funnel, brittle with age, and a key I'd never found a lock for. The man exhaled, relief flooding his face. "That'll do," he said. As I handed it over, the smell of gasoline grew stronger, filling the store, soaking into my clothes, my skin, my lungs. The engine sound outside faded, replaced by the steady hum of appliances, of lights, of a place that never quite stopped being what it was. When the bell rang again, I was alone. But the drawer was empty, and somewhere beneath the floor, something warm and patient waited for the next customer who asked for gas. The store's clock ticked backward every time I blinked. I noticed it because the blinking started to hurt. Graveyard shifts teach you to be aware of your body in small, uncomfortable ways. The ache behind your eyes from fluorescent lights, the stiffness in your knees from standing too long, the dryness that builds when you forget to blink often enough. Around 2:17 a.m., my eyes burned, and I squeezed them shut for a second longer than usual. When I opened them, the clock on the wall behind the counter jumped. Not forward, back, just a second. So subtle I almost laughed it off. Old battery, loose mechanism. The kind of thing your brain wants to explain away so it doesn't have to do anything else with the information. The clock was mounted crookedly above the cigarette display, its white face stained faintly yellow with age. Black numbers, read second hand. I watched it carefully this time, holding my eyes open until they watered. The second hand crept forward with obedient, mechanical patience. I blinked. It snapped back one tick. My stomach tightened. I leaned closer to the counter, squinting, as if proximity might correct it. The refrigerators hummed behind me, a low vibration that settled into my bones. The freezer units along the far wall exhaled cold air in long, rhythmic breaths. For a moment, their hum seemed to pause when the clock moved, like they were listening. I blinked again. Another second lost. "No," I whispered to no one. I tried rapid blinking, stupidly, experimentally. Each blink stole another second. The red hand shuddered backward in little, jerky movements, like it resisted the command but obeyed anyway. My reflection in the glass freezer doors lagged, my eyelids closing a fraction of a moment later than they should have, as if the store itself was slow to accept what I was doing. I stopped blinking. The burn in my eyes intensified, sharp and insistent. Tears gathered, blurring the aisles into long, wavering tunnels of snacks and drinks. The clock ticked forward again. Relieved, I stepped back, heart thudding. "Okay," I muttered. "Okay. I'm tired." The shift had been quiet so far. No customers since midnight. The road outside lay empty beneath buzzing streetlights. I checked the register log. 2:19 a.m. normal. Everything normal. Except the clock. I turned away from it and began restocking the drink cooler, moving slowly, deliberately, counting my breaths. When I glanced up again, the clock read 2:15. My chest went cold. I hadn't blinked. I was sure of it. The lights flickered overhead, a brief dimming that sent shadows sliding along the aisles. The hum of the freezers deepened, sinking into a slow, pulsing rhythm that matched the ticking of the clock. Forward, 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 blink, backward. A memory surfaced uninvited. My trainer, months ago, joking about how the nights blurred together, how time got sticky in places like this. Don't trust the clock when you're alone, she'd said, laughing. Trust your body. My body felt wrong. The bell above the door rang. I jumped hard enough to slam my elbow into the counter. Pain flared, grounding me. A customer stood near the entrance. A man in a dark jacket, his face half lost in shadow. He looked at me like he'd been doing so for a while. "Hey," he said. "Rough night." "Yeah," I said too quickly. "What can I get you?" He frowned slightly. "Same as last time." Sorry." He smiled, but there was no humor in it. "You always forget." The clock ticked loudly behind me. I didn't look. "Do you want anything?" I asked again. The man's gaze drifted past me, to the clock. "What time is it?" I swallowed. "Late." His smile widened. "Earlier than that." The lights flickered. The aisles seemed longer suddenly, the shelves bending inward just enough to make my head swim. When I blinked, just once, the store felt colder. The clock jumped. The man nodded, satisfied. "There it is." I rang him up without remembering what he bought. When he left, the bell echoed longer than it should have, stretching, overlapping with itself. For a heartbeat, I thought I saw him still standing by the door, layered over his own retreating reflection. I checked the security monitor. The footage looped. I watched myself stock the cooler. Turn. Blink. Turn again. Over and over, trapped in a grainy, silent loop. The timestamp in the corner flickered between 2:14 and 2:18, never settling. My head filled with memories that weren't lined up right. Customers I'd never seen before greeting me by name. Nights that felt long and heavy, like I'd been here longer than my paycheck suggested. The store rearranged itself subtly, end caps shifting, aisles swapping places when I wasn't looking. Every blink loosened something. The clock read 2:03. My eyes burned fiercely now, tears streaking down my cheeks. I tried to force them open, prying them wider with my fingers. The world shimmered. The freezers roared, loud enough to drown out my breathing. The clock ticked forward, shaking, desperate. A realization settled over me, slow and awful. The clock wasn't malfunctioning. It was counting, rewinding toward something, toward a moment the store remembered better than I did. A moment when the shift never ended. When the last clerk stopped blinking. My vision swam. Black spots crept in at the edges. I felt the store lean in, shelves creaking softly, lights dimming like eyelids lowering. The clock hovered at 1:58. If I blinked again, I knew I wouldn't come back the same. My eyes finally closed on their own. The clock jumped, and the store exhaled, settling comfortably into an earlier version of itself, ready to begin again.